Hey guys, it's Morgan, and today I'm going to be doing my September wrap-up. But before I get started, I just wanted to say that I'm probably not going to be doing TBRs anymore because I do really well at sticking to them, and I feel like if I do a TBR and a wrap-up, I'm just repeating myself. So I'm going to stick with just wrap-ups and not do TBRs anymore. But I read 9 books in September. There's still 2 days left, and I might read one more book, but I figured probably won't. But anyway, these are in no particular order. I can't even really remember which ones I read first. But the first book is Intensity by Dean Koontz. This is actually the last book I read. I just finished it yesterday. I really liked it. It's one of my dad's favorite books, and I was buddy reading it with him. He still has a few chapters to go, but I'm a really fast reader. And I really liked it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The only reason I didn't give it 5 out of 5 stars is because the chapters are really long, and it really bothers me. This book is over 400 pages, and it only has 12 chapters. And I have a hard time with long chapters, and even though it was really fast-paced, like, I was never bored reading it, I just felt like, gosh, this chapter's so long, I'm never gonna get through it, and then I get through and be like, okay, I gotta take a break. But it was really good. It's about this girl who goes with her best friend from college to visit her friend's family, and while she's there, a man breaks into their house and murders everybody and kidnaps her friend, and he doesn't know she's actually there. And so she kind of climbs into his motorhome and tries to rescue her friend, and it gets crazier from there, and it's really good. It was very intense. That's a good way to describe it. But this is my first Dean Koontz book, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, so I'm probably going to read more. I do have his Odd Thomas series that I've been wanting to read, just haven't got to it yet. The next book I read was Legend, the graphic novel by Marie Lu. So I did read the novel a while ago, and I wanted to try graphic novels, and I saw this on a book outlet, and so I got it, and I really liked it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars just because I feel like it doesn't go into depth like the novel does, and I read it in half an hour. It's really short. But the art is really, really beautiful. And yeah, I like the novel better. But I might get the next graphic novel just because. So it follows Day and June, who they kind of live in this, what's it called? Society where it's like martial law, where the military is kind of in charge. It's like a dystopian book, and June is from a wealthy family and Day is from a very poor family, and you get to a certain age and you have to take this test, and if you don't pass the test you are sent to a labor camp. And so June is the first to get a perfect score. She is a prodigy, and everybody wants her to go into the military like her brother, and so that's what she's striving for. And Day doesn't pass the test and he gets sent to this labor camp while he escapes and becomes a vigilante. And June's brother is murdered, and he is the prime suspect, so she goes undercover to find him, and so it just follows her trying to find him and, you know, get answers for her brother's murder. So I really liked it. I like the novel better, but the graphic novel was really good. So the next book I read is the first Michael Vey book, Prisoner Cell 25 by Richard Paul Evans. This is the second time I've read this book. I've only read the first 3, so I'm rereading them because there's 7. The 7th just came out, it's the last book, so I'm going to reread them so they can finish the series. But this series follows a kid named Michael Vey, and he has like these electrical powers, and he doesn't know he's the only person that has these powers. He ends up meeting a girl at his new school who has similar powers, and they become boyfriend and girlfriend, and then she gets kidnapped, and so does his mom, and so he and some of his friends end up going to rescue his girlfriend and his mom, and they find out things about this company, about their powers, how they got them, and all these crazy things. And so I gave this book I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I love this series, even though I've only read the first 3. I really, really love this, and one of the main things that I like about it so much is the main character is flawed. He has Tourette's syndrome. He's not like a perfect, awesome, handsome, just muscular dude who's like, I have these powers, and yeah, and so he's got Tourette's syndrome, and so I really like that he isn't a perfect person kind of thing. The next book I read in the month of September was 8th Grade Bytes by Heather Brewer. It's the first book in the Chronicles of Vladimir Todd. This book follows a kid who is half vampire, half human, and in this book he is finding out things about his family that he never knew. His parents had died 3 years before in a house fire, and he finds out about the secret vampire society and all this crazy stuff, and it's really short. It's less than 200 pages, but the other 4 books are a lot. They're like 300 to 400 pages, so this one's just really tiny. It's just like the opener kind of thing. But I really liked it. This is the second time I've read it because I read the first 4, but I would like to finish the series, so I was going to reread it. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads because it was really good. The next book I read in the month of September is Memory Boy by Will Weaver. This was by far my least favorite read of the month. I really didn't like this book very much. This follows a family of 4, and they live in a big city. There was a giant volcanic explosion on the west coast 2 years before, and they live on the east coast, and there's still ash falling from the sky from this disaster. And so they're trying to leave the city and get to their cabin in the middle of the woods where there's not a lot of people because there's rioting and all this crazy stuff. And it was just super boring. There wasn't really anything that happened. It was just, yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of a twist in it, but it was pretty predictable. And there's another book, but I doubt I will read it because this one was so boring. I gave this one a 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The next book I read is The Marbury Lens by Andrew Smith. I don't know how to feel about this book. This book was very weird. I still don't know what's going on in this world, and I don't know if I'll read the next book or not. I think there's one more, and might be one more in like a prequel kind of thing. I don't know. But anyway, it follows this kid named Jack who there's the things that happen in this book are kind of like I feel like they're not connected very well. But anyway, this kid Jack in the beginning of the book gets drunk and he gets kidnapped by this guy who's like a pedophile, and he ends up escaping before anything really happens, and then it kind of there's that thing, and then he goes to London to visit the school that his grandparents went to, that he wants to go to. Well, he's seeing if he wants to go to it for his junior year, and his best friend ends up joining him, and this weird old guy gives him these glasses, and they transport him to another world, and it's just, I feel like it's not connected very well. The things that happen kind of are like, oh, this happened, but okay, forget about that, that doesn't important anymore, this happened. And so yeah, I don't know if I'll read the next book or not. It was alright. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Ripper by Stefan Petruccia. I really enjoyed this book. It's really long. It's like 400 pages, over 400 pages. But it follows this kid named Carver who is an orphan. He lives in this orphanage, and the orphanage is moving to a new city, and him and 2 other kids in this orphanage are 14, so they aren't allowed to go because they're too old. So they end up getting adopted, and it follows Carver, who is adopted by an old private investigator who used to work for Alan Pinkerton, and he ends up, he's always wanted to be a detective, and so he ends up teaching him how to be a detective because he's looking for his father, who had sent a letter to his orphanage years ago, and he's just trying to find out where his father is because his mother died, I think. And it is a historical fiction book. There's Alan Pinkerton is an actual person. He's not in it, but it talks about him and this private investigation agency that is based off of his ideas and stuff, and it's a secret agency. And then Teddy Roosevelt is in it, and he is the police commissioner of New York, which he actually was, and Jack the Ripper is in it. So I really, really love this book. It was kind of slow, but I read this book in a day. It was really good. It had a lot to set up. Like, there was a lot of investigative work into his father, and then he was also interested in Jack the Ripper, but there was another guy working on that, and all this stuff. And it was really good. There was 2 twists in the end, and one of them I knew from the beginning, so I was like super disappointed. And I was like, whoa, that's the only twist, darn it. And then there was another twist in the end that was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And so I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars because I really liked it. The next book I read in September is Undercurrent by Paul Blackwell. I had read this book before, forgot what it was called, and then found it on Book Outlet, got it, and loved it the second time. The only thing is you can never read the same book for the first time again, you know, like you can't watch the same movie again for the first time, which would be awesome. So I kind of remembered everything that happened in it, but it was still really good. The way that everything connected and the way everything unfolded, it was awesome. So it follows this kid named Callum Harris, and he lives in a small town, and he ends up going over this waterfall, and he wakes up in the hospital, and his best friend's trying to kill him. His brother's in a vegetative state kind of coma thing. His parents are still married, and all this stuff is different, and so it's just him trying to decide, well, is it my brain that's all messed up? Do I have these memories that I just dreamed this whole world and it's not true? Or is this world messed up? And so it's just him trying to figure it out, because in this world everybody hates him and he's a really bad person, and so he's kind of going crazy trying to figure out what's going on. But I really liked it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And the final book that I read in September is The Lifetime Escape from Furnace by Alexander Gordon Smith. This book was recommended to me by a friend a couple years ago, and I just now got around to it. But it was good. I liked it. So this book follows a kid named Alex, and he lives in this world where kids are kind of feared, and I feel like that point that he has in this book is relevant to today in the society. I feel like, you know, everybody says the children are the future, but I feel like a lot of times they're scared of us. There's so many restrictions, you know, don't do this, don't do that, if you do this you get in big trouble, and all this stuff, and that makes me, adults kind of are afraid of kids, which I don't know, they think differently, I guess, than adults, and they just look at the world differently, but I feel like adults are afraid of kids a lot these days. Anyway, this world, if you are a kid, a minor, and you commit a major crime like murder, you are sent to Furnace, which is a penitentiary for minors, and it's built in this giant cave underground. It's a mile underground, and there's no windows or anything. You go there and you never leave. You commit your crime and you go to Furnace, and that's where you stay for the rest of your life. Anyway, it follows this kid named Alex who is framed for murdering his best friend, and he gets sent to Furnace, and there's a bunch of other kids there that have been framed for murder, and there's people there that are doing experiments on kids, and there's these beasts that are kidnapping these kids in the middle of the night and basically like eating them. It's kind of brutal, and he's just trying to survive Furnace, and he's trying to escape, and so I liked it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I would really like to continue this series. Well, that's all I read in September. I am currently reading the second Michael Vey book. I was hoping to finish that book this month, but it's probably not going to happen. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I thought it was fun. I'm glad I got to read 9 books this month. I was only planning on reading 8, but 9 is better, so hooray. And I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye!